Oh, it's adorable. Do you know what Donald Trump's cure is for his administration and Department of Justice being found in contempt by Judge Boasberg, about to be found in contempt by Judge Zinnes, and almost found in contempt and going to be found in contempt by a judge in Massachusetts? You know what his solution for it is? Let's limit the ability of federal judges to find anybody in contempt. And by anybody, I mean Donald Trump and his administration. Is that constitutional? Isn't that a violation of the separation of powers that Donald Trump consistently relies on to make his arguments for unfettered second Article 2 powers for the president? Yeah. Let me break it down for you here. I'm back on Legal AF after a week off. My mother passed away. I'm honored and I really heartbroken by the loss. But I am encouraged by the amount of support I've gotten here on Legal AF in our community. It's a reflection of our community, and it really did help my family and me and continues to help them through a trying time. Let me turn to a topic. I got to get back on the microphone, as they say, and let's talk about this big, fat, beautiful bill, whatever he calls it, that Donald Trump just had his MAGA Congress shoved through in the middle of the night after 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning debates. And buried in it is a little provision that even Jim Jordan, the head of the Judiciary Committee for the House MAGA, who's a lawyer who never got the bar license, it's an attempt to limit the power of a federal judge by Congress to use as part of their tool bag contempt or contempt of court and the remedies related to it. Let's stop right there. Let's go through the three branches of government for a moment, shall we? Because Donald Trump doesn't seem to understand them. I've joked only half in jest that Donald Trump must carry around a customized version of the Constitution in his pocket. It only consists of Article 2, powers of the president, and the Second Amendment. Everything else is missing. It's all cut out like paper dolls. That's it. And so on Article 2, powers of the president, sure, he's got constitutional core function as the head of the executive branch. Article 3, the judicial branch, the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, and the role of the Supreme Court and the inferior courts are laid out there. And if they're not laid out there, they have been developed over time by Supreme Court precedent, starting in 1807 with a case called Marbury versus Madison. Article 1 is Congress, the House and the Senate, its powers, its terms, what it's responsible for, its core constitutional function. Congress is the power of the purse string. It funds, it raises taxes, it raises money, it spends money for federal interests. Part of the federal interest is to fund Article 3 federal courts. Courts are expensive. I don't know if you've ridden by a federal court lately. Many of them look like the Taj Mahal. It's like marble and limestone. Some of them are a little bit more modest, but a lot of them, especially the new ones, are quite magnificent, if that's the right word. And their upkeep also, mainly built before COVID, quite expensive. Thousands and thousands of employees, from staffers to judges to security personnel to court clerks to administrative personnel, all housed in one or more buildings. Miami, at one point where I practiced, had 3 separate federal courts at any given time. We used to call them the new federal court, the new federal court, and the old new federal court. Don't ask. Depends on when they came online. So they're really expensive. And the money comes from, they don't go out and fundraise. You don't click on your local YouTube or television. I don't know why I'm clicking, and I don't know why I'm calling it local YouTube, but it's been a long week. They don't do fundraising. It's not like you turn on the television or something. It's like, there's Sean Roberts going, and with 30 minutes left in our fundraising drive and for a tote bag, what's the number? He gets his money from Congress. But there's checks and balance. What they can't do, while they can fund, they can't direct the branch to do its bidding. Like, we don't think you should take any more cases against the tobacco industry. They can pass laws that bar liability against the tobacco industry. But once the case is in court, they can't tell judges. They can't direct judges. Like Alina Habba or Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche or Emil Bove for the Department of Justice can't sit in the courtroom and go, and bang a gong when a judge makes a decision they don't like. Bing! No, that's not what we want you to do. That's not happening. So they're trying to tie and pull a purse string and tell federal judges, when it comes to finding of contempt, what we call contumacious conduct in court, Sometimes people call it contemptuous, but it's really contumacious. That conduct means you have violated an order of the court. Could be an oral order of the court, could be a writing, an order in writing, but you have violated an order of the court. And there are levels of contempt. The initial level is called civil contempt, but it can go all the way to criminal contempt. You've committed a crime by your conduct. And just to give you an example of where this item got buried in this big, beautiful bill came from, it's not because of Democrats, it's because Donald Trump is constantly on the road to contempt. In Judge Boasberg's courtroom, about a month ago, I reported that he found it was on probable cause, it was more likely than not, that the Trump administration and the Department of Justice had committed criminal contempt by violating his orders, grounding the planes that went to El Salvador in the deportation scheme in violation of his orders and of the Constitution. Now, that finding of contempt and referral to prosecutors, or a referral to an independent special counsel appointed by the judge, was put on hold by a federal circuit court that sits above him, appellate court, below the Supreme Court, but above Judge Boasberg. But he did find it. And if the case gets back to him, which it may, after the appeal, we're about ready for contempt, meaning somebody's going to jail in the Trump administration or the Department of Justice. Then you fast forward to Judge Zinnes in Maryland. She found, and she's in the midst of doing fact-finding and allowing the opposing party in the Abrego Garcia case, that poor guy, who was deported and removed to a country that he had a federal order in his back pocket that said he couldn't go to that country because it was too dangerous for him. And the Trump administration, knowing about that order, put him on a plane to El Salvador, nonetheless, without due process, and he's now been ordered back by the Supreme Court. Trump's been ordered to return Abrego Garcia and facilitate his return and his release from prison. We're going on now 3 months, and this guy's stuck in a killer prison. I think he's been moved to a slightly better prison. It's just another ring of hell. It's one level up in El Salvador. So she's allowing the plaintiffs, Abrego Garcia's lawyers, to do discovery and depositions. But last week, she was just scolding of the Department of Justice and said at one point, I feel like I'm a cat and you think that you're a ball of string and you keep pulling the ball of string every time I'm trying to make a finding. And so she's about had it. She's on the 1 or 2 yard line before she punches it in for a finding of contempt against the Trump administration for violating the Supreme Court order and her own. And then we have a judge in Maryland about Donald Trump sending people who are not from South Sudan to the unstable region of South Sudan and their killer prisons, people from Mexico and Cuba and Venezuela, but very few people, if any, from South Sudan, but sending them there because that country's willing to take it to curry favor with Donald Trump and to try to do it without due process. And a federal judge just this week has warned that he believes the Trump administration is violating his orders. And that is code word for I'm going to find you in contempt. So what will happen if this bill gets signed by Donald Trump after it's passed in the Senate, if it can be passed in the Senate, and this section remains? Now, there's a process of what's called reconciliation, where the Senate can sort of get rid of provisions in there that they find objectionable. And there are certain senators, unlike congressmen who are Republican, who think Donald Trump is on a crime spree of epic proportion and needs to be restrained. In the cryptocurrency fraud, in the Qatar $400 million airplane fraud, in the Abu Dhabi investment fraud, a number of places. And so they may take a blue pencil and remove this provision. But if it ends up there and ends up part of the bill that's signed by Donald Trump into law, we're going to have lawsuits that we'll cover here on Legal AF. That's where you are. Take a moment, hit that. That's my audio. Hit the subscribe button for Legal AF and help us get to 700,000 in June. But if it does, we'll have challenges in court that this violates the separation of powers. This violates the Article 1 powers of Congress, Article 3 powers of the judiciary, that you can't dictate what is in the tool bag for a federal judge and how they fashion a remedy. And even if you have to, and the reason they're trying to do it, limit this contempt, but they're requiring judges to force a party to post a bond, hold a bond hearing for an amount that has to be posted. Now, what's the purpose of a bond? The purpose of a bond is if at the end of the case, because remember, these injunctions happen at the beginning of the case, contempt findings in the beginning of the case. If contempt is found or injunctions are found, and now you need a bond for contempt, right? And it's later found that what? The parties are not in contempt, that if it was improvidently granted by the judge, that there should be some financial compensation to the party who had a contempt order against them. It's really ridiculous. I mean, injunctions also against the government or otherwise for constitutional violations rarely have a bond. So now they're saying you can't even have an injunction without a bond, therefore undermining the ability to find a violation of an injunction on the way to contempt. But they don't even set the amount of the bond. So by the new law or the new proposed law. So even Jim Jordan said, well, we don't care what they said. It could be $1, but at least they're setting a bond. All right. So they set $1 or $5 or $100 or something really minimal or low. I just think trying to make them set anything to support an injunction in order to support an ultimate contempt ruling is a violation of the separation of powers. We'll continue to follow whether I'm right here on Legal AF. Glad you're here. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.